Hey everybody, I'm Greg. Welcome to my channel. If you happen to like this video, be sure and give it a like. If you're new here and you like what you see, be sure and subscribe. That helps us a lot. We appreciate that. If you're returning, hello, welcome. So today, I think we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally we run trains or we repair trains and then we run them. But today I think I'd like to talk about a subject that I generally avoid at pretty much any cost. So, if you've been in the train world for more than a moment or two, and you have friends, family, member of any of the Facebook groups, you've probably come across the topic of value. I hate talking about value. So, okay, value. Let's think about value for a minute. What is value? Well, if you're looking at it from the perspective of the English language, that's no help at all. It's freaking no help at all. If you look up value in the dictionary, what is value? Well, if you want to use it as a verb, it's to estimate the monetary worth of something. Okay. If you want to use it as a noun, it's the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. Okay. Well, so apparently worth, right? Worth. So what is worth? Well, let's consult the dictionary. It's an adjective, equivalence in value to a specific item. What? It's just round and round and round. The English language is so freaky. So it's no wonder when people talk about value, it's easy to have preconceptions. It's easy to have misunderstandings. So when people come to me and they say, hey, I have my uncle's trains, or I was willed these trains, what is the value? Oh my God. My heart just goes, I hate that question. But, okay, so I found a way that you can answer the question if you have any general idea at all. Now, if you don't have any idea at all, then it's simple. I don't know. They aren't going to believe you. I'll just let you know right now, they're not going to believe you. But, okay. Here's how I generally approach it. I'll say, hey, well, I've seen this type of item sell for as much as this, which gives them that yay moment, right? And then I've said, well, on the other hand, I've seen, it go for as little as this, which kind of brings them back to reality. You haven't lost a friend. You haven't made anybody mad. Your family will still speak to you. So that's generally the approach I use. So let's look at maybe a more logical way that you can think about value. Now, I'll just tell you that once again, value to me, it's here. There's not a lot of logic involved. It's how it makes me feel. That's what value is to me. So let's explore this a little further. So so a lot of people will start and they'll buy a guide. There's many guides out there, many. This guide here, if you go on Amazon, this will amuse the heck out of you. This guide's worth more, or supposedly worth more. There's that word, value, worth more than it was to me. I bought this one used for $20, and I mean, go look it up. You won't even believe it. But anyway, these guides, they're just that. It's a guide. It's what things are selling for nationally. If you live in Texas, it may be worth more or less than somebody that lives in Washington. That's just examples, just geographic locations thrown out. But I mean, frankly, some of these values that are in here, they're laughable. And they're laughable in both directions. This is simply a guide. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Value to me is what it's worth here, not necessarily here. Definitely not in the monetary value here. I wouldn't buy or not buy something based on these guides or even somebody else's opinion necessarily, because once again, it's here. So when a family or a friend comes to you and they found these things in their attic, or somebody left them to them in their will, well, that's a situation that, if you don't approach it right, you're likely to lose a friend or get in an argument or get sideways with somebody, and that's really not worth doing. So here's how I answer the question. I'll say, I've seen something sell for as much as this, which gives them kind of that yay, And then I'll say, but on the other hand, I've seen it sell for as little as this, which gets them kind of this back to the reality. But that way, you're not throwing out that, oh yeah, these are super valuable. Just later to find out that a lot of this stuff was so mass produced and so available. I mean, it's so heavily marketed that a lot of times the garbage bag to throw it in is worth more than what you're throwing in it. And that's the harsh reality. That's the sad part. Now, fortunately, folks like me, that doesn't mean a thing to me. If I like it, I'm gonna buy it, because once again, it's here. It's how it makes me feel. It's not the dollars and cents. Now, I mean, obviously, if you're somebody that buys stuff to resell, that's none of this advice is going to help you even a little bit, because I'm not in that world. I don't buy something thinking, oh, I can resell it for this or what. Now that kind of sparked a thought in my head. When we were growing up, my grandmother had this collection of antiques, and I mean, they were super valuable. I mean, this stuff was so, just elitist. I mean, it's just amazing stuff, right? So when she passed away, we found out that everybody has this stuff. I mean, yeah, it was marketed as collectible, but it was so mass produced that literally it had no value. I mean, almost no value. And okay, here's another thing. So trends, model trains. Once upon a time, every boy at some point got a model train. Now, in this day and time, well, that age of boy or girl is probably more interested in video games and that kind of thing. Model trains not as much. Obviously there's some interest, and I know some younger folks that are really into this stuff, but as a general rule, not so much. Of course, that's going to dictate value in some way. It has to, because if not that many people are buying it, it can do one of two things. It can inflate the price for everybody else, and then later, is it still worth that? I don't know. That's, once again, value. So anyway, that's, once again, it's just kind of a conversation I avoid, because it just, I don't know. Growing up, you probably had an uncle that had, trains in the basement, and they're super valuable. Well, yeah, maybe. So let's talk about marketing for a minute. Lionel, Marx, American Flyer, what do they all have in common? They were excellent at marketing this stuff. Amazing. I don't know if it was a happy accident or they were just truly skilled in this, but a lot of these things, a lot of these values are driven by their original marketing. Now, for instance, American Flyer and Lionel both marketed a product called the Blue Comet. Now, they were totally different products, but the name, Blue Comet. The marketing behind those particular products was amazing. Blue Comet, to this day, if you say Blue Comet to a collector, it just, their eyes are gonna light up, okay? They're, dollar signs. But here's the thing. Okay, so the original Blue Comet and the standard gauge, probably timeless, right? So then, of course, they made an O gauge version, and okay, yeah. Not like the other, but it's still a Blue Comet, and it still evokes emotion. Now, over the years, Lionel, and this is just an example. They've done this with many models. They'll reintroduce, the name, but it's not necessarily, and oftentimes not even similar to the original product. But it's the Blue Comet, and it works. People buy this stuff because it's the Blue Comet. It's amazing. So one of the things that Lionel did, and I think this is pretty brilliant, maybe I'll grab a couple of examples here in a second, is they did some reissues, and it was famously popular. Just famously popular. It's probably one of the most brilliant marketing schemes that I've ever seen. I'm going to go grab a couple of examples because this is interesting. All right, so here's a good example of remarketing things that were wildly popular when they came out to milk the value. and in this sense of the word, the value means for the manufacturer. It doesn't mean for you or I. So okay, this is an original. Let me get this guy out the way for a minute. 384. I believe this was made in the early 30s, 1930s. I believe so. And this was the original issue. This is a standard gauge locomotive. It was wildly popular when it came out. So, many years later, sales are slumping. In the mid-80s, Lionel reintroduces 384. This is reproduction. So, is the original worth more than is the original worth more than the remake, or vice versa? Now, the answer to that might surprise you. So this is where the whole conversation of value kind of comes off the rails, for me anyway. So, the original 384, I don't think I can, better not hold up the tender too. Beautiful, undeniably beautiful. Value, monetarily, it's worth more than the reproduction, hands down, all day long. But for me, just gonna hold up the locomotive like I did. Reproduction, for me, it's worth more, and here's why. On paper, it doesn't make sense, but I play with my trains. You can't really play with this every day. It's not practical. It breaks. The parts are hard to find, and they're expensive. Parts on the reproduction, newer, more reliable, easy to find. So for me, value for this particular locomotive is higher than the original. Now, if I was to resell them, which I won't, clearly this one would be more valuable. So you can see how value is very subjective. I mean, it's kind of a slippery slope. To me, more valuable. So here's an interesting exercise. In your mind, imagine Blue Comet. What comes to mind? What picture comes to mind? Now, hop on your phone, your laptop, whatever you have available, Google Blue Comet. Look at the images. What comes up? That's a lot. That's a lot of different images that aren't even close to the same. Here's some examples. So what did all those images have in common? Not a lot other than the name and marketing, right? It's a name, Blue Comet. Even American Flyer got in on the deal. I mean, on the front of the American Flyer, this is Blue Comet. So when we talk about value, we have to watch if we really want to know value, which once again, in my opinion, is here. We have to kind of take in mind that we may have been preconditioned to think that certain things are cool or more valuable than others, and maybe in some cases they are, and maybe in other cases it's just very clever marketing. So for me, when I hear Blue Comet, I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to be very careful. This This is what I think of right here. This to me is a blue comet. You notice all those other pictures, you know, perhaps other people have different ideas. But is one more valuable than the other? I don't really know.
So many people will tell you that in order to find the value of something, you can go to eBay or a related auction type site and you see what things have sold for. Well, that's not totally dissimilar to the guides I showed you earlier. That's going to be kind of a national average, and actually it's something of a tainted average, because here's why. Some folks or some people, some sellers are really good at writing their ads. Some people really, you know, they know what they have, they describe it well, and those ads, the items are going to generally sell for more. Then you have people like, you know, my grandmother or my grandfather might list something. They don't necessarily know what's valuable or what should be highlighted or how to write an ad. And so oftentimes those items will sell for much less. Some of the nicest things that I've gotten or purchased on eBay or other auction sites are folks that have not described their items well, or even miscategorized them or misdescribed them, or described them in a way that wasn't advantageous to their sale. So while that's kind of a guide, not unlike the national guides, it's just that. It's a guide. So okay, let's wrap up this discussion of value. And once again, when I say value, I'm talking about how to determine a value for yourself, what it means to you. I would go back to the original thought of marketing. How does it make you feel? You know, let's face it, nobody needs a model train, okay? Now, on the flip side of that coin, I would say to avoid things like, you know, being motivated by scarcity or hype, or, you know, think about the Beanie Babies. You know, these are so scarce, so they must be valuable. Yeah, no. So when you think about value, think about how it makes you feel. You know, I don't think you can go wrong if you trust that. I think that's the value. Alright, everybody, I hope you have enjoyed my perspective on value. I guess we can all agree that, you know, your opinions don't necessarily have to mirror my opinions. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. In any case, if you enjoyed the video, once again, please like it. If you're new and you enjoyed the video, hey, subscribe, because we're always doing something. And anyway, I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll see you next time.